wanting more, and usually that's what questions and answers are for. In most formats that we're all in, they allow for Q&A, like now. So if you wanted to drill more deeply, we can talk more. But I think it's always better to end early and leave people thinking, that was succinct, I understood it, we went all the way through. For instance, how many meetings have you been in when there's a PowerPoint presentation, they're given 35 minutes to give it, there's 40 slides, they've gone through 3 of the slides, there's 5 minutes left, the person says, you got to wrap it up, and they fly through the last series of questions and they blow every single key point that they probably should have made because they whined on. So I would say keep it short if you possibly can. And again, deliver one key message. Now, we move into a slightly different area. So that was sort of general presentation skills. Now I want to drill down a little bit more about this whole thing about messaging and Q&A. And Q&A is important for a variety of reasons. We all question each other in the business environment. We question each other in the book club. We question each other on Capitol Hill. We question each other in the media. And a lot of this is derived from that. But the key is, now that you know who you are and you're comfortable with the environment, you want to begin to develop the message and then figure out, how do I withstand sort of the... This is how most people view any public engagement. God, I just got to get through it. I've had more CEOs say, I just got to do this earnings report. I just got to get through it. What do you mean you got to get through the earnings report? That's what everybody's judging how to invest with you, based on your earnings report. I just have to give this speech, and when I'm done, I'll be happy. I just have to make this report to the PTA, I'll be happy. You know, I want this job, I have to go to this dumb interview to get the job. Okay, it's not something just to get through. It's our innate defensiveness, it's our lack of, it's our insecurity, it's our lack of confidence. So rather than viewing it as something to get through, you should view it as an opportunity. It's fun, it's a challenge, it's your opportunity to seize control, to set appropriate expectations of who you are and what you want, provide greater context for how you think, for what the situation might be, and to move your message. And your message, by the way, let me not be too glib about message, as if message can be your point of view, message can be advancing your career, it could be advancing a policy, it could be any number. Message is your objective and your point of view. Critical elements, and some of this is repetitive to what I set up in the general. It's essential. If you're going to go in to any sort of engagement with any audience, 1 or 100 or a million, the whole point is, who are you? What is your story? How does your life fit? Why should someone care? How is it relevant to them? Keep your messages simple. I'm not saying you have a simple life and the person across from you is simple, but remember, if you're competing for a job and you're one of 3 finalists, there's still 3 other people, and you want them to leave with one compelling thought, one linear understanding of who you are. When you communicate, you have to remember, you have an agenda. I want this job. I want to be appointed to this. I want the viewing public or the reading public to get my point of view. You can't do it if you're out of control, or don't try to control your agenda. To think that the person across from you or the audience doesn't have an agenda or a thought process is silly. You have an agenda, they have an agenda. It's healthy, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. Always have an objective. Why am I here tonight? I'm here tonight because Patty Carochi said, you come here or else, and I came here. And then she didn't show up. I want to thank her very much. You can convey those things. But always have an objective in whatever group. Why do you want to go into any meeting, any boardroom, any interview, and not know why you're there? And you know what? How often do people you walk, geez, why are we here? You've lost the minute you walk through the door. Go in with an objective of why I'm here and why I want to communicate. It's the only way you can succeed. And again, know your audience. Who's your audience? Why am I here? In a boardroom, there is rarely equality. There's usually 1 or 2 key people. And you know in advance who are those key people. And if you're asking me a question, but I know you're the decision maker, am I going to bias my answer to you? Nope. I'm thinking about him. I'm looking at you, and my message is going here. You have to think about it. This is not, you just don't spontaneously show up and divine who's important. You think about it. So again, let me go through this quickly so that we can get to Evan here. What is your objective? What do you want the audience to do or to know? Is this a call to action? Are you raising awareness? Again, if you're a leader, you're not just going in and imparting information. I don't care what you do with it. I'm just here. You know, it's like the poor flight attendants who always tell you to buckle up, and there's the exits and all that. Of course, then someone ditches in the Hudson, and you wish you'd paid attention, right? So the fact is, you're not just communicating to blab. You're communicating to ask people to do something or to think about something. Why waste the airtime if you're not going to be meaningful? And of course, in public life or in business life, and if you're a leader and you're making a presentation, you are advancing, advocating, trying to get to change things and move things in a different direction. This is so crucial. This is particularly true certainly when you are in interactions with the media, but it's true in any large audience. Or it's even true in a one-on-one interview. Someone may be interviewing you for a job, but that person usually has to do what? Report back the findings to some other swell person. And if this person happens to be interested in hockey, and you're playing the hockey game, yeah, I know hockey, I grew up in Minnesota, you know, I know hockey. They write up their report, and the person above says, hockey? You mean you spent an hour talking about hockey, and I've got a company that's buckling underneath us? Forget it. You have to think about who's your audience and who are you communicating to. And it may not always be pleasant because the person in front of you may be asking you questions and you're trying to answer over here. And I'm not saying don't answer the questions, just always keep in mind who your audience is. Preparing, use figures, use examples, use quotable language. Figures are important. That's the rational side of messaging. Messaging has two sides. It's rational and emotional. If you think about most issues that you deal with every day, there's always a rational argument. But what usually carries the day? Emotion, passion. You can talk about immigration or abortion or the war, and you can talk about facts and figures, but at the end of the day, what carries it? It's that gut level emotive part of it. So you have to have a part that's factual, figures. The examples, remember I said earlier how powerful examples are. Examples are hugely powerful. It's the old picture is worth 1,000 words. Think about the examples you want to use to put people on the spot, almost irrefutable. And lastly, quotable language. Over and over again, whether it's within your company, there's always those who have a gift for turning a phrase or such and such said, or you read it in the newspaper. Think about the quotable language. Think about the headline. Think about what you want to convey and make it fun. I want to see if someone will recite back to me a phrase that I wrote. And I write out language, by the way. Short, but not long-winded. I'm talking sound bites. It's okay, because that encapsulates the one message, the essence of who you are and what you're trying to achieve.
When you say figures, what do you mean by figures?
Facts. 19,000 people, $16 billion, right. But what I'm saying is it's important to say this policy that you're advocating is important. It's going to save us $19 billion. But here's what's more important. Let me give you an example of not just the financial cost, but the human cost and what it's. So you shift from the raw numbers, which are incomprehensible for most people, and take it down to the level where people can understand it. Now, this seems simplistic. I use this all the time. Telling tales out of school. The president of the Philippines, who's been a client of mine for 8 years, she loves the Message House, and she loves this following stuff. Okay, so the Message House is essentially, you're thinking through any meeting, by the way, and I put this in sort of media terms, but essentially it's any meeting. What's the headline? What do I want someone else to get out of this meeting? What's the headline I'm trying to get? This person is a fantastic financial planner. If that's what it is, that's what I want out of this meeting. How do I then prove it? Key message number 1, experience. Key message number 2, amazing understanding of how the average American plans their budgets. Number 3.